So there's this pretty revolutionary nuclear technology, something that's been talked about for decades, and it just went live. What's the big deal? Well, it promises to solve two of the biggest problems we have with nuclear power, running out of fuel and dealing with all that radioactive waste. This is the story of a reactor that literally makes more fuel than it burns. And honestly, it could change everything about how we power our future.
And it all really kicked off with this big announcement from India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, this wasn't just some routine update. This was a full-on celebration of a massive milestone, a huge leap forward in the country's long-term energy plan. You can feel the excitement here, because this technology has been the goal for a very, very long time. And here's the event at the heart of it all. After years of construction and overcoming some serious tech hurdles, the prototype Fast Breeder Reactor, or PFBR for short, finally achieved criticality. Now that's basically the ignition on moment for a reactor, when it can sustain a chain reaction all by itself. So a new, very advanced reactor is officially online. Which, of course, brings us to the big question we're going to dig into. What makes this kind of reactor so different from the ones we're used to? And why is everyone calling its activation such a game changer for energy? All right, let's pull back the curtain and see how this seemingly magic reactor actually pulls it off. So, at its core, a breeder reactor is exactly what it sounds like. It's a nuclear reactor that, breeds fuel. While it's busy generating power, it's also creating more fissile material, that's the stuff that can keep a nuclear reaction going, than it actually uses up. It sounds impossible, but it's real. And this is where you can really see the night and day difference. Conventional reactors are kind of picky eaters. They mainly use this rare isotope uranium-235, and they only tap into less than 1% of the energy in the uranium. Breeder reactors, though, they can use abundant stuff like uranium-238 or thorium and unlock pretty much all of their energy. It's the difference between taking a tiny sip and drinking the whole glass. Now, this is super important to understand. This reactor isn't just a one-off project. It's actually the critical second step in India's master plan for nuclear energy, a plan they came up with decades ago. Step 1 was using regular reactors. This new breeder reactor kicks off Step 2, which uses the byproducts from Step 1 to create a self-sustaining fuel cycle. And the final goal, Step 3, is to tap into India's huge reserves of thorium for what could be centuries of clean energy. So what's the payoff for all this trouble? Well, this technology comes with two absolutely massive promises. First, a near-limitless supply of fuel for clean energy. And second, a potential solution for nuclear power's oldest problem, all that long-term radioactive waste. Yeah, just take a second to let that number sink in. 100 times more energy from the same amount of fuel. This kind of efficiency completely changes the math. It makes all our existing uranium stockpiles and even uranium we can get from seawater into viable energy sources for literally thousands of years. But of course, whenever you say the word nuclear, there's one giant elephant in the room: the waste. For decades, the big challenge has been what to do with spent fuel that stays radioactive for thousands and thousands of years. It's always been the Achilles heel of nuclear power. So let's quickly break down what that waste really is. Most of it, over 98%, is just unused uranium. The really problematic part is a tiny fraction of heavier elements called transuranics. Think of them like the embers in a campfire that just refuse to go out and stay dangerously hot for days. That's these things, the stuff with super long half-lives that makes long-term storage so tricky. And this is the other incredible promise of breeder technology. It's designed to take those long-lived transuranics, the most hazardous part of nuclear waste, and use them as fuel. Instead of just burying the problem, you can actually burn it to generate even more clean electricity. This could dramatically shrink the volume and the long-term danger of nuclear waste. Okay, so if this technology is so revolutionary, you're probably asking, why don't we have these things everywhere already? Well, the journey of the breeder reactor has been long and, let's just say, pretty bumpy. You have to go back to the 50s. Back then, everyone thought breeders were the obvious next step for nuclear energy. But then, surprise, huge new uranium deposits were found, which made conventional fuel cheap and took away the urgency to breed more. By the 90s, high costs and other challenges led countries like the US, the UK, and Germany to just shelve their programs. Today, though, that story is changing, with a new set of nuclear powers picking up where they left off. So what were those big roadblocks? First, money. They're just plain expensive to build, at least 25% more. Second, the tech is really complex. A lot of designs use liquid sodium as a coolant, which is great at moving heat, but it really doesn't play well with air or water. And third, the process involves separating out plutonium, which, as you can imagine, raised some serious global security concerns about proliferation. Those three things together were enough to hit the brakes on development for decades. And that brings us right back to today. With India's new reactor online and other countries getting interested again, are we seeing the start of a breeder reactor renaissance? A huge piece of this puzzle is policy. Just last year, India passed a landmark law, the Shanti Bill, that for the first time ever lets private companies build and operate nuclear plants. The whole idea is to supercharge investment and speed up the construction of new reactors, including advanced ones like this breeder. And you can bet industry leaders are taking notice. Dr. Chris Singh from Haltech International called it the launch of a nuclear renaissance. The thinking is that this blend of new tech and new policy could finally be the key to hitting net zero targets, boosting the economy, and achieving real energy security. So we end up right back where we started. We've got a historic tech achievement paired with a massive shift in policy. Now, the old challenges, cost, complexity, they haven't just vanished. But with the world getting more and more desperate for clean, reliable energy, the question is no longer just, can we build these reactors, but maybe, can we afford not to? This could very well be the start of a whole new chapter for nuclear power,